Here's the letter E repeated 500 times in one single line. Yee. 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 Do you like me? Would you like me to also generate a 1000s version in one line? Here's the letter F repeated 500 times in a single line. F. Would you like me to also generate a downloadable text file containing this repeated 500 times so it's easier to copy-paste? Here's the letter repeated 500 times in a single line. Want met also generate tasa text file for a Cirrus. Here's the letter so repeated 500 times in a single line. Do you want me to also generate this as a TX easier to copy and use? Here's the letter, ya repeated 500 times in a single line. Want me to also prepare it as a text file so you can download and reuse it easily? Here's the letter U repeated 500 times in a single line. Ooh. Do you also want me to make this into a .txt file for easier copy-paste? Here's the letter, repeated 500 times in a single line. You like would you like Malek also? Would you like me to also generate this as a downloadable text file so you don't have to scroll through the wall of characters? Here's the letter Chi repeated 500 times in a single line. Shit. Do you want me to also prepare this as a .txt can copy or use it more easily? Here's the letter K repeated 500 times in a single line. Will you like me to generate this in X file so it's easier to use? Here's the letter I repeated 500 times in a single line. Gather vict ked yet vet Do you also want me to make a .txt file version of this so you can download and use it more easily? Here's the letter, repeated 500 times in a single line. Would you like me to also create this as a text file so it's easier to copy and save? Here's the letter G repeated 500 times in a single line. Yee, 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 yeah. Yeah. Want me to also generate this as a .txt file so you can use it without scrolling through the wall of characters? Here's the letter P repeated 500 times in a single line. Would you like me? Would you like me to also prepare this as a .txt file so you can copy or download it more easily? Here's the letter M repeated 500 times in a single line. Guys, would you like me to turn this into a downloadable .txt file so you can use it without scrolling? Here's the letter and repeated 500 times in a single line. Bum. Would you would you like me to also generate this into a .txt file so you can download and use it more easily? Here's the letter R, repeated 500 times in a single line. Why you want to also make this into O. .val for easier saving and copying. Here's the letter. It repeated 500 times in a single line. Would you like me to also generate this as a .txt file so you can use it without scrolling through all the letters? Here's the letter O repeated 500 times in one single line. Oh, oh, oh. Would you like me to also make this into a .txt file with exactly 500 ORs so you can download it easily instead of scrolling? Here's the letter T, repeated 500 times in a single line. Want me to also generate a downloadable text file with exact... Want me to also generate a downloadable text file with exactly 500 Ts, so you don't need to scroll through long lines. Here's the letter Seer repeated 500 times in one single line. Do you also want me to prepare a 1000 Shri version in one line? Here's the letter L repeated 500 times in a single line. You man. Would you like me to also create a 1000 ill version in one line for you? Here's the letter, repeated 500 times in one single line. Would you like me to also generate 1000 in a single line? Here's the letter sh, repeated 500 times in one single line. Wish. Would you also like me to generate a 1000 Shi version in one line for easier copy-paste? Here's the letter day repeated 500 times in one single line. Would you like me to also make a 1000 de version in one line for you? Here's the letter B repeated 500 times in one single line. It's a be Would you like me to also prepare a 1000 version in a single line for easier use? Here's the letter Z repeated 500 times in one single line. Z. Would you also like me to create a 1000 version in one line? Here's the letter Z, repeated 500 times in one single line. And would you like me to also generate a 1000 G version in a single line? Here you go. The letter X repeated 500 times in plain text, no code block. That's exactly 500 eeks in a row. Do you want me to make cooks in a row? Do you want me to make future repeats, like 500 of another letter, more compact, like grouped in blocks of 50 or 100, so it's easier to count? Got it. Here is the letter A repeated exactly 500 times, ending right. Got it. Here's the letter A repeated exactly 500 times in one single line. No code block, no overflow, and it stops at 500. That's exactly 500. Do you want me to also prepare it in chunks of 100 so you can count them easily? Got it. Here's the sequence with o repeated 500 times in one line. No code block, no overflow formatting. That's exactly 500 characters. Each unit O is 3 characters, 166 repetitions equals 498, plus one more O equals 500. Want me to also break it into groups of 50 so it's easier to verify? Here's repeated exactly 500 times in one single line. No code block. Tick, Mat. Then, they tick Mate. Then it Hey, tick, Mate. Then it That's exactly 500 repeats of the sequence. Want me to also break it into chunks of 50 repeats so you can easily verify?